All right, so we're on chapter 3 of Peace Pilgrim. This chapter is called The Pilgrimage. And I've really enjoyed reading Peace Pilgrim. What I love about her is that she's outside of the boundaries. She it's not a religious adventure for her. It's really an adventure inspired by her concern for humanity and her desire for peace. And her methods are self-investigated. She's not quoting a scripture, she's not quoting a guru or a teacher. She really, through her own experiences and through her own really pure heart and renunciation and dedication, was taught, it seems, directly by Mother, by the universe, this way to peace. And I'm really excited about that. I know Heidi has been holding a meeting at her house a couple times. I hope you don't mind my telling people, Heidi. But in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had two meetings so far, and I am equally inspired and excited. I'm actually almost inside. I feel a little giddy about it actually because I just love what's happening. Um, we're taking a very different tack. I've sort of I feel like that the Divine Mother is kind of moving in a very different way. I think I'm getting this message that she's changing the nature of religion in the world. And I've gotten this feeling that people are tired of the institutions and they're tired of the teachers talking at them, and they're tired of the manifesting hypocrisy of it. And because in this little thing that we're doing, this little group at Heidi's house, what I've been doing is I've decided I'm not teaching. I'm not going to sit there and give a class and a lecture and read from anything and tell somebody something. I'm really getting this strong feeling inside that Mother just is tired of that, doesn't want that. She says, as I see it, as I'm feeling it, as I'm feeling inspired in it, more and more my role in certain aspects of things. I don't know that it would work on on the internet, but is to listen. To that my service at this point is to be a listener and to hear things and to listen closely. And the reason for it is that it's right in line with what the suspicion has been arising in me lately that and you've heard me talk about it that life is religion, there is no such thing as a compartmentalized thing called religion, that the experience of life is what brings us to the truth, and the way to grow in that is to pay attention and to hear it. When you see things that don't fulfill you or don't have good fruit, if you're paying attention, you stop and you move forward because the truth is self-evident within us. Thou art, that's what is meant by that Vedantic saying, thou art that. This truth, the highest truth of existence, is self-evident. The only thing that prevents us from seeing it is our active mind, disturbed by our egoism, by our me and mine, and that me and mine keeps us from paying attention and keeps us from being able to sit into a silence where that which is obvious can become evident to us, where we can see them. And so in both of these classes that we've had down there, the first one I just threw out a question, what is religion to you? And everybody went around and just shared from that. And I loved the points that were made. If you summed them all up, it was like that 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 parable of the five blind men with the maybe it was five or maybe it was three blind men. I don't know, a certain number of blind men touching an elephant and describing an elephant. And so they asked the first blind man, "What is an elephant like?" And they were like, "Well, he flies, he's suspended in the air, and they're large and sort of triangular shaped and flat." And they asked the second one, the blind man, "What's an elephant like?" And he says, "Oh, well, it's just kind of like a vine that hangs from a tree. It's a little fuzz at the end, and then just a snake-like shape that goes straight up." And the other one was like, "No, it's not like that. He's like a trunk of a tree." And of course, the first blind man had been touching the ear, the second one the tail, and the third one the leg. And so even though they were all in full disagreement about what an elephant was, none of them were wrong. They just had only a part of that elephant. And so I really felt like after that first class, that was, as we went through and asked what is religion, what is spiritual life, kind of had that not a conversation. Oh, it was a conversation, but we were all listening to each other. Nobody was teaching or saying what it was. We were just listening. And I saw that as it went around the room that we fully described the nature of spiritual life, of the journey of religion, like a group, like a room full of blind people who each had a part and a piece of understanding. And that when we all got together and shared that, all of the points of a great lecture were there already, within everybody. And so a lovely atmosphere was created. There was a lot of enthusiasm. So we did it again on Friday. And this time the question is, what is God to you? And do you believe it? And that also went exactly the same way. I was touched by how much spiritual life is is in normal people. People who are just living life. How much I just was. I'm so touched by the authenticity of the people and their willingness to just really share, and all the different perspectives, coming together. And again, the same experience, that we got a full, very well-rounded and grounded sense of the divine from all of these different perspectives. And I started to really understand what Mother in my mind, what Mother is moving toward. It's like that she wants to put religion back in the individual, wants to put spiritual life back in the individual, and to just cease this institutional, qualified person standing up in front like a mouth, just blah 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 blah. This, do this, do this, do this. And I have this sense inside that this is two things. One, I think that I'm part of a bigger thing that we haven't run into each other yet, but I really have this strong sense inside that there's several points of tindering that are going on, that are being set to fire, and that this thing is going to just take a life of its own and just kind of whoosh, move out there. And it's going to be possibly, of course, I could be just a nut, who knows? But I get this sense that sort of a new phase of spiritual life, we're about to walk into, uh, that not undermines, but doesn't have the necessity of the machine of religion, but is a return to the days before we had any of that stuff. A return to the day of the original rishis, where if you wanted to know, you went out in the woods and you sat down and uncovered it within yourself. That you didn't run to a church, you didn't run to a swami, you didn't run to a monk or a priest or a pastor or anything else. You went out in the woods and you asked God, "What's what's up?" Right? And you sat there quietly in your renunciation and in your self-control and in your determination to know, the necessary ingredients, that sincerity and earnestness, that love of truth, right? And that love, and to take those ingredients and let them do their work, and free us from this bizarre thing that has become of religion in the world, and to set us free in that way. And I see Peace Pilgrim really as being the original of that in a way, just this grassroots love for truth, compassion for humanity, and a commitment to renunciation, which she is one of the most pure examples of that, and a dedication based on a love for humanity, based on a love for its own sake. And I'm so excited. Because I don't know where I'm getting all this giddy feeling that this thing is so big inside. I don't have evidence for it, or, and I don't feel egotistical because I don't feel like I'm going to do it. I feel like I've been called into to a pre-existing thing, that is about to happen, that is about to, catch fire. So I'm not prophesying. I'm not even promising. I'm just excited. And so I'm sharing that with you. And so here we're going to step into pilgrimage today. And I know the first paragraph is kind of like this. I just love her freshness in her, just her honesty, her authentic self being presented. She says, a pilgrim is a wanderer with a purpose. A pilgrimage can be to a place, that's the best known kind, but it can also be for a thing. Mine is for peace, and that is why I am a peace pilgrim. My pilgrimage covers the entire peace picture: peace among nations, peace among groups, peace within our environment, peace among individuals, and the very, very important inner peace, which I talk about most often because that is where peace begins. The situation in the world around us is just a reflection of the collective situation. In the final analysis, only as we become more peaceful people will we be finding ourselves living in a more peaceful world. In the Middle Ages, the pilgrims went out as the disciples were sent out, without money, without food, without adequate clothing. And I know that tradition. I have no money. I do not accept any money on my pilgrimage. I belong to no organization. There is no organization backing me. I own only what I wear and what I carry. There is nothing to tie me down. I am as free as a bird soaring in the sky. Oh man, that moves me so much inside just to hear somebody that I know is telling the truth about themselves, free as a bird. She's conquered that fear that holds us, in our place. She's conquered and has walked right out of it. Oh man. I walk until given shelter. I fast until given food. I don't ask. It's given without asking. Aren't people good? There is a spark of good in everybody. No matter how deeply it may be buried, it is there. It's waiting to govern your life gloriously. I call it the God-centered nature of the divine nature. Jesus called it the kingdom of God within. Right? Indeed. Indeed. This is exactly the fire that I feel inside. This oh my God. Deserves a sip of coffee. Oh goodness. My eyes get all blurry from this here. All right. Now, a pilgrim walks prayerfully, and a pilgrim walks as an opportunity to come in contact with many people and perhaps inspire them to do something for peace in their own way. For that purpose, I wear my short tunic with Peace Pilgrim on the front, 25,000 miles on foot for peace on the back. It makes my contacts for me in the kindest way, and I like to be kind. She's really the original dreamer here. It's just, well, I love her. You're in a much better position to talk with people when they approach you than when you approach them. Those individuals who are attracted to me are genuinely either interested in some phase of peace or just to have a good, lively curiosity. Both kinds are very worthwhile people. Then I have time to share with people my peace message, which says in one sentence, this is the way of peace. Overcome evil with good, and falsehood with truth, and hatred with love. The golden rule would do equally well. There is nothing new about that except the practice of it. But I consider it the lesson for today, and so it becomes the message of the peace pilgrimage. Please don't say lightly that these are just religious concepts and not practical. These are laws governing human conduct, which apply as rigidly as the law of gravity. When we disregard these laws in any walk of life, chaos results. Through obedience to those laws, this world of ours will enter a period of peace and richness of life beyond our fondest dreams. The key word for our time is practice. We have all the light we need. We just need to put it into practice. I had no idea that everything that I just said before we started was going to be read to me as soon as we started. How yeah, this is so strange for me. I feel so inspired and so excited about this. This is coming out of nowhere from within me in the last 3 days or 4 days. Well, probably that's not even true. I guess the last 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, or maybe the last year even. Who knows? But this is divine. This is what the play is. And this is why, on Sunday I had to get up and lecture again at church or at the temple, at church, at the temple. And I started the lecture again with the same way. I was like, we don't need another lecture. We don't need more information. The internet and our own common sense and our experience of life has already informed us more than any other generation in the history of the planet. We don't need another word. What we need is conviction, somebody who will do it, somebody who will take the chance, like Peace Pilgrim, and just live what they know to be true, right? And not be afraid, not be afraid, not be afraid. Know that your father, your mother, the beloved divine, has got you in the palm of their hand. And as far as you want to jump, they will support you, they will hold you. You will not fall. They will not let you fail in this. The time for realization is upon us. I love that a pilgrim walks prayerfully. A pilgrim walks as an opportunity to come in contact with many people. That's that whole idea of being the listener, just being available. That's all. I think that's when she talks about being the butler that stands in the corner of God's dining room and just is constantly alert and scanning the table for any opportunity to serve. This is it. This life for us, especially for those of us gathered right now, is uh, this is our pilgrimage. Again, the pilgrimage is not separate from your being. Your journey through this world is your pilgrimage, and this pilgrimage is for peace. This pilgrimage is for love, pilgrimage for love, and to walk with that purpose in front of you. Maybe we should all get blue aprons. We can do blue aprons that say Love Pilgrim on them. What I walk on is not energy of youth. It is a better energy. I walk on the endless energy of inner peace that never runs out. When you become a channel through which God works, there are no more limitations because God does not work through you. You are merely the instrument, and what God can do is unlimited. When you are working for God, you do not find yourself striving and straining. You find yourself calm. You find yourself serene. You find yourself unhurried. My pilgrimage is not a crusade, which connotes violence. There is no attempt to force something on people. A pilgrimage is a gentle journey of prayer and example. My walking is first of all a prayer for peace. If you give your life as a prayer, God, I feel like I'm on drugs or something. My pilgrimage is not a crusade, which connotes violence. There is no attempt to force something on people. A pilgrimage is a gentle journey of prayer and example. My walking is first of all a prayer for peace. If you give your life as a prayer, you intensify the prayer beyond all measure. Oof, this is, the thing that's just driving me insane at this moment is that so much of this was in the talk on Sunday, and here it is, here, and how Mother is just bringing up these ideas, clearly, just that's what gives me this thrill inside that something is about to happen. That something is about to happen. In undertaking this pilgrimage, I do not think of myself as an individual, but rather as an embodiment of the heart of the world, which is pleading for peace. Humanity, with fearful, faltering steps, walks a knife edge between abysmal chaos and a new renaissance. While strong forces push toward chaos, yet there is hope. I see hope in the tireless work of a few devoted souls. I see hope in the real desire for peace in the heart of humanity, even though the human family gropes toward peace blindly, not knowing the way. My pilgrimage is an opportunity to talk with my fellow human beings about the way of peace. It is also a penance for whatever I may have contributed by commission or omission to the tragic situation in the world today. It is a prayer that this war-weary world of ours will somehow find the way to peace before a Holocaust descends. My mission is to help promote peace by helping others to find inner peace. If I can find it, you can find it. Peace is an idea whose time has come. I mean, there's so much in there. You could just sit and just sit and just absorb. It just gets more and more and more beautiful. Such a purity there. It's like listening to somebody flick a crystal glass. The words that she's saying just ding, and you just feel the sound go through that inner self. You just hear the truth in what she's saying. I began my pilgrimage on the 1st of January in 1953. It is my spiritual birthday of sorts. It was a period in which I was merged with the whole. No longer was I a seed buried under the ground, but I felt as a flower reaching out effortlessly toward the sun. On that day, I became a wanderer relying upon the goodness of others. It would be a pilgrim's journey undertaken in the traditional manner, on foot and on faith. I left behind all claims to a name, all claims to a personal history, all claims to possessions and affiliations. It would be a glorious journey. The birthplace of the pilgrimage was at the Tournament of Roses parade in Pasadena, California. Woo, that's where Swamiji house is. The birthplace of the pilgrimage was at the Tournament of Roses parade in Pasadena, California. I walked ahead along the line of march, talking to people, handing out peace messages, and noticing that the holiday spirit did not lessen the genuine interest in peace. When I had gone about halfway, a policeman put his hand on my shoulder, and I thought he was going to get off the line of march. Instead, he said, "What happened to me in Los Angeles area in the beginning was almost miraculous. All channels of communication were open to me and my little peace message. I spent hours being interviewed by newspaper reporters and being photographed by newspaper photographers. The story of the pilgrimage and even my picture went out over the wire services. Besides doing two live television programs, I spent hours recording for radio and television newscasts. Newspapers all along the line, from Los Angeles to San Diego, were interested. In San Diego, I did one television program and four radio shows. The head of the San Diego Council of Churches approved of my message and my three petitions, and they were widely circulated in the churches." That's cool. That's why that's that fire when it catches. It just goes when mother's ready. This is what happens. When I was not on the road, I was speaking and gathering signatures for the three peace petitions which I carried. The first was a short plea for immediate peace in Korea. It read, "Let the killing in Korea cease, then deal with this conflict situation according to the only principles which can solve it. Overcome evil with good, and falsehood with truth, and hatred with love." I love that. It's funny that I read that and I'm like, wow, that is the most contrary to political speech you can possibly have. It's like it takes it out of politics and brings it right back to humanity. We're humans, we're not politicians. The second petition was directed to the president and congressional leaders requesting the installation of a peace department. It read, "This is the way of peace. Overcome evil with good, and falsehood with truth, and hatred with love. We plead for the establishment of a peace department with a secretary of peace who accepts these principles, and with all conflicts at home and abroad to be referred to this peace department." That's a great idea, actually. The third petition was a plea to the United Nations and the world leaders for world disarmament and reconstruction. It read, "If you would find the way of peace, you must overcome evil with good, and falsehood with truth, and hatred with love. We plead with you to free us all from this crushing burden of armaments, to free us from hatred and fear, so that we may feed our hungry ones, mend our broken cities, and experience a richness of life which can only come in a world that is unarmed and fed." I accumulated signed petitions from individuals, peace groups, churches, and organizations along my pilgrimage route, storing them in a satchel which was carried for the occasion. I presented them to the officials at both the White House and the United Nations at the conclusion of my first walk across the country. And I am thankful that my first petition, "Let the killing in Korea cease," was at least partially granted before the year was out. At Tijuana, Mexico, just across the border from San Diego, I was received by the mayor, and he gave me a message to carry to the mayor of New York City. I also carried a message from the California Indians to the Arizona Indians. Whew. Boy, look, that's everybody joining in. That's I don't think I would have been able to keep walking. I would have just I would have been wobbly with excitement. That's amazing. While passing through San Diego the first year, I was introduced into public speaking. A high school teacher approached me on the street and inquired if I would speak to her class. I told her in all fairness that as a peace pilgrim I had never spoken to a group before. She assured me that it would be fine, and asked only that I would answer the students' questions. Ah, beautiful. Again, that's the principle right there. I agreed. If you have something worthwhile to say, you can say it. Otherwise, why in the world would you want to be speaking? I have no problem speaking before a group. When you have completely surrendered to God's will, the way seems easy and joyous. It is only before you have completely surrendered that the way seems difficult. When I speak, energy flows through me like electricity flows through a wire. In the beginning, my speaking engagements were often arranged on the spur of the moment. As I was walking past a school, the principal came out and said, "My students are looking at you from the windows. If you would if you would come in and talk to them, we'll gather in the gymnasium." And so I did. That's these are all those signs, this is what it is when you know you're walking in light. When you're surrendered, when you're walking in truth, things just happen. You meet people, all that's necessary arises. It just comes together like this. This is so beautiful. Then at noon, a man from one of the civic clubs approached me and said, "My speaker disappointed us. Will you come and speak at our luncheon?" And of course I did. The same afternoon, a college professor on the way to his class stopped me and asked, "Could I take you to my students?" So I spoke to his class. Then at night, a minister and his wife going to a church supper stopped me and said, "Would you consider coming and eating with us and speaking to us?" And I did. They also gave me a bed for the night. And all this happened as I was walking along one day without any prior engagements. I now keep very busy speaking for peace at colleges, at high schools, churches, and so forth. But always I am happily busy. My slogan of first things first has enabled me to take care of my speaking engagements, keep my mail up to date, and also do some walking. Once in Cincinnati, I gave 7 sermons at 7 different places of worship in one day. On that particular Sunday, I gave local ministers the day off. No collections are permitted at meetings that are held for me. I never accept a penny for the work I do. Any money sent to me through the mail is used to publish my literature, which is sent free of charge to anyone who requests it. Truth is the pearl without price. One cannot obtain truth by buying it. All you can do is to strive for spiritual truth, and when one is ready, it will be given freely. Nor should spiritual truth be sold, lest the seller be injured spiritually. You lose any spiritual contact the moment you commercialize it. Those who have the truth would not be packaging it and selling it. So anyone who is selling it really does not possess it. That's a very important sentence right there. When I first started out, I thought the pilgrimage might entail some hardships, but I was determined to live at need level. That is, I didn't want more than I need when so many have less than they need. Penance is the willingness to undergo hardship for the achievement of a good purpose. I was willing, but when hardships came, I found myself lifted above them. Instead of hardship, I found a wonderful sense of peace, a wonderful sense of joy, and conviction that I was following God's will. Blessings instead of hardships are showered upon me. That's another important thing to remember. You prepare for the hardships, like Brother Lawrence. He joined the monastery because he thought it would be boot camp that would make a man of him. And he said that he was so disappointed because God kept being so nice to him. He was, he came, his whole idea was like he was going to get his beating from God once and for all and shape up. And he said, he said, but time and time again, I was disappointed that I was lifted from one high to another, from one joy to another, through the whole experience. I remember my first lesson on the pilgrimage was the lesson of receiving. I had been on the giving side for many years, and I needed to learn to accept as gracefully as I had been able to give, in order to give the other fellow the joy and blessing of giving. It's so beautiful when you live to give. To me, it's the only way to live, because as you give, you receive spiritual blessings. I was tested severely in the beginning of my pilgrimage. Life is a series of tests, but if you pass your tests, you look back upon them as good experiences. I'm glad I had these experiences. If you have a loving and positive attitude toward your fellow human beings, you will not fear them. Perfect love casts out all fear. One test happened in the middle of the night, in the middle of the California desert. The traffic had just about stopped, and there wasn't a human habitation within many miles. I saw a car parked at the side of the road. The driver called to me saying, "Come on, get in and get warm." I said, "I don't ride." He said, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm just parked here." I got in. I looked at the man. He was big, burly, what most people would call a rough-looking individual. After we had talked a while, he said, "Say, wouldn't you like to get a few winks of sleep?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I certainly would." And I curled up and went to sleep. When I awoke, I could see the man was very puzzled about something. And after we had talked for quite some time, he admitted that when he had asked me to get into the car, he had certainly meant to do me no good, adding, "When you curled up so trustingly and went to sleep, I just couldn't touch you." I thanked him for the shelter and began walking away. As I looked back, I saw him gazing at the heavens. As I looked back, I saw him gazing at the heavens, and I hoped that he had found God that night.
Swami, I feel like we've heard this story before.
Yeah, I mentioned it when I talked about picking this book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't realize she never rode in a car.
yeah. And the time that she did, that's the time she died in the accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one walks so safely as one who walks humbly and harmlessly with great love and great faith. For such a person gets through to the good in others, and there is good in everyone, and therefore cannot be harmed. This works between individuals, it works between groups, and it would work between nations if nations had the courage to try it. Once I was hit by a disturbed teenage boy whom I had taken for a walk. He wanted to go hiking, but was afraid he might break a leg and be left lying there. Everyone was afraid to go with him. He was a great big fellow and looked like a football player, and he was known to be violent at times. He had once beaten his mother so badly that she had spent several weeks in the hospital. Everybody was afraid of him, so I offered to go with him. As we got up the first hilltop, everything was going fine. Then the thunderstorm came along. He was terrified because the thunder shower was very close. Suddenly he went off the beam and came for me, hitting at me. I didn't run away, although I guess I could have. He had a heavy pack on his back. But even while he was hitting me, I could only feel the deepest compassion toward him. How terrible to be so psychologically sick that you would be able to hit a defenseless old woman. I bathed his hatred with love, even while he hit me. As a result, the hitting stopped. He said, "You didn't hit back." Mother always hits back. The delayed reaction, because of his disturbance, had reached the good in him. Oh, it's there, no matter how deeply it is buried. And he experienced remorse and complete self condemnation. What are a few bruises on my body in comparison with the transformation of a human life? To make a long story short, he was never violent again. He is a useful person in this world today. Boy, what a testament. Each of the, I'm just thinking in all these situations, like, what would I probably have done? It's like, could I ever come from such a pure place like this? On another occasion, I was called upon to defend a frail 8-year-old girl against a large man who was about to beat her. The girl was terrified. It was my most difficult test. I was staying at a ranch and the family went into town. The little girl did not want to go with them, and they asked, since I was there, would I take care of the child? I was writing a letter by the window when I saw a car arrive. A man got out of the car. The girl saw him and ran, and he followed, chasing her into a barn. I went immediately into the barn. The girl was cowering in terror in the corner. He was coming to her slowly and deliberately. You know the power of thought. You're constantly creating through thought, and you attract to you whatever you fear. So I knew her danger because of her fear. I fear nothing and expect good. So good comes. I put my body immediately between the man and the girl. I just stood and looked at this poor, psychologically sick man with loving compassion. He came close. He stopped. He looked at me for quite a while. He then turned and walked away, and the girl was safe. There was not a word spoken. Now, what was the alternative? Suppose I had been so foolish as to forget the law of love by hitting back and relying upon the jungle law of tooth and claw. Undoubtedly, I would have been beaten, perhaps even to death, and possibly the little girl as well. Never underestimate the power of God's love. It transforms. It reaches the spark of good in the other person, and the person is disarmed. All right, we'll stop there for tonight.
That was a good last line.